Do you play Risk of Rain 2? Why? Is it because of unique character designs that keep you invested in whoever you choose to play? How about the plethora of items and equipment that each have wildly different effects and that get even crazier when all pulled together? Maybe it's the sprawling level design that requires you to traverse each map's many layers while also maintaining your focus on what could be around each and every corner. Or perhaps it's the thick mod. Wait, the what? The thick mod! I know you have it. While any combination of what I've just mentioned may play a part in your continued time with Risk of Rain 2, I'd wager that for most of you, myself included, it's the combat that keeps you coming back. The level of success in its combat is for good reason as well. Hopoo Games had already created a compelling game with the original Risk of Rain's items, enemies, levels, and characters. That opened up a ton of space for them to simply focus on the gameplay, the combat of Risk of Rain 2. So what makes it special? Well, a lot of stuff. For one, it's super fast-paced. Think about it, how often are you sitting around waiting for something to happen? Outside of the first couple of stages, you're rarely left alone in a run. The game is constantly throwing targets at you, and if you neglect even one of them, you could face your immediate demise, especially from the straight-up killers known as beetles. On top of that, the enemies themselves are no pushovers either, and require you to, more or less, not get hit. Therefore, you'll not only be constantly fighting, but constantly moving as well. Toss in the fact that most survivors' abilities happen instantaneously, and the ones that require some sort of charge up almost all finish in under a second, and you can start to see why the combat is just so adrenaline inducing. You're always moving and you're always fighting. You're not locked into a sluggish animation, and you have the freedom to kill things the way you want to kill them. One of the most important and often overlooked components of a game's combat systems are the enemies themselves. To many developers, the thought process is, if they're fun to look at or have cool looking abilities, then they'll be fun to kill as well. Nope, incorrect, nuh-uh. Good combat stems from enemies that are fun to kill above all else. Think of something like Call of Duty. Why are those games so popular? Because you're going against other players as your enemies. What can be more fun than figuring out how to take down something that essentially thinks the same way you do? It's why online multiplayer games in general make up the vast majority of the blockbuster hits in today's market. Developers are able to entirely bypass one of the hardest things in game development, enemy design, and focus more on the other stuff. Now, sure, COD has been known for its campaigns or non-multiplayer game modes at times, but let's be real here, that can be attested more to the writing and characters than the actual gameplay. Risk of Rain 2, while still able to be played with other people, never pits you against them, because it doesn't need to. Each enemy feels different from the rest. Lesser Wisps come in massive numbers and have hit scan attacks that will overwhelm you if left unchecked, but otherwise aren't too dangerous by themselves. Imps have lightning fast movement on top of a teleport, requiring you to keep a distance and constantly predict their next move, else you'll take heavy damage from their swipe and the bleed it induces upon you. Brass Contraptions are slow moving but highly lethal with their 3-part attack, with each one of the 3 balls easily dealing half of your HP and damage. Stone Titans can find you from anywhere on the map and constantly place a massive rock fist underneath you and force you in range of its lock-on laser beam. You put all of those together and throw in some of the other 15 monsters I did not mention, and you now have a perpetual game of combat chess, with each piece bringing its own set of rules and requiring its own method of defeat. Use the wrong method or choose the wrong enemy to kill first, and you'll often pay the price with an almost certain death and the end of your run, no matter how many items you have or how strong you think you are. That is what makes each and every encounter on every single stage in a run so much fun. These enemies aren't just bullet sponges with tons of HP or cheap insta-kills that you're constantly scared of. No, they're each well thought out and unique in design by themselves, and when put together with the others, turn into, again, a massive game of chess that keeps you on your toes and makes you think of a strategy to use at every point in time. Another major draw to the combat is its simplicity. I know, I just went from describing the combat as a game of chess to saying it's also simple. This is because the actual methods of combat are, in and of themselves, simple. Aim and shoot. That describes literally all of Risk of Rain 2 survivors in a nutshell, even the melee ones. Aim at what you want to hit and, well, hit it. There aren't any super complex combos or patterns to learn. The closest thing would be our super sweaty nerdy boy, the Mercenary. It's pretty much all about spamming your abilities whenever they're off cooldown and holding down your primary attack for the rest of the time if you want to achieve optimal DPS. Now, this isn't to say that Risk of Rain 2 requires no thought to play, at least successfully play. Rather, nothing gets in the way of your desire to just wail on some bad guys. Most of the complexity in combat comes from your current items and equipment, which, as I stated in the intro, each come with much different effects and modifiers that get pretty nutty when all clumped together. This leaves plenty of room for the things that utilize those crazy effects, the various survivors' abilities, to be as basic and simple to understand as possible. You're not going to find anything like an Aphelios in Risk of Rain 2, and for good reason. The final reason, and arguably the most important one as to why the combat is so satisfying, is that the game is not scared of making you as powerful as possible. A god amongst men, or in this case, a bunch of beetles and lizard dudes. Every single item in the game, of which there are easily over 100, stacks with itself, the majority of which stack infinitely. You'll have runs where you find an early tri-tip dagger printer and absolutely melt everything inside right off the bat, and you'll also have hard-fought runs with abysmal RNG, only then to snag a 57-leaf clover and a meat hook, and again melt everything in sight. The power dynamic of a run has the potential to completely change on a dime at any given point, which bolsters the combat itself tremendously. See that combat shrine over there? Yeah, I know you're having a bad run right now, but if you pop it and deal with it successfully, you'll have enough money to go and buy those 4 large sets you saw earlier, and you can get some OP stuff and turn the tide for the better. Oh look, an ATG printer. Better go find a scrapper so that you can trade all of your Poglips and Daisies into absolutely insane items. What are you, a baby? And that does it for everything that makes Risk of Rain 2's combat as successful as it is. I didn't go into tons of depth with the game's systems here, as I have plenty of content covering that stuff all over my channel, so if you're looking for more info, check out some of my other stuff. What keeps you playing Risk of Rain 2? Is it mainly the combat, the survivors, the progression, or whatever it is? Let me know with a like or dislike on the video and a comment below. You can check out my stream at twitch.tv/Woolie Gaming and consider joining our Discord server as well. Thank you for watching, and you smell that? Kind of smells like a content update in the near-ish future. Hopefully. Maybe. Okay, I have no idea when it's coming out, but let's be optimistic here and say it's sooner rather than later, okay? Okay, bye-bye.